Hold on. Good morning, everyone. We're in for a real treat this morning. We are in the presence of a extraordinary master teacher and remarkable human being. When I embarked upon a journey 10 years ago to study with Dr. Jean Houston in Mystery School, flying up every month with Dr. Judith Milburn and Patty and Jane up to Portland, Oregon. Yes, and Geraldine. I had no idea that I would also encounter someone who would have the extraordinary impact, profound impact that she had on my life and in the lives of many others, many of whom are sitting in this room today. Peggy Rubin has been called, as evidenced in her reviews and the things that people have written about her, incredible things. But what we all know about Peggy Rubin is that she is so dedicated to being who she is, her essence, being in the presence of Peggy Rubin. You know you're in the presence of love. And so I am quite certain that today she will leave a soul print on your heart as well. And now I will tell you about the other things that she has accomplished. She's a very accomplished woman. Peggy is the director of the Center for Sacred Theater in Ashland, Oregon. We never heard of Ashland, Oregon before we met Peggy Rubin. And now we all go up there regularly and we move there and we're thinking of retiring there. She's put it on the map for us. She is the creator of workshops in Living Life as Sacred Theater and Sacred Studies of the Divine Feminine. She's also the principal teaching associate of Dr. Jean Houston. And they teach worldwide transformational work all over the world. So their lives have really touched thousands, maybe millions of people all over the world. Before that, she was the Public Information and Education Director for the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which we've all come to enjoy and love very much, going up to Ashland and enjoying the Shakespeare Festival. Before that, she has been a teacher of English, a freelance writer, editor, and an actor. And she is here today to talk about her new book, which has been long in the making as we have all walked on that journey with her, knowing it was going to happen. Her new book called To Be and How to Be, Transforming Your Life Through Sacred Theater. And I will tell you that as an actor, which many of us have witnessed in Mystery School and social artistry, I want to read you what someone wrote about her as an actor, and this, to me, says everything about her. Paul Barnes, the founding director of the Great River Shakespeare Festival, says, Peggy's presence on stage is fierce and committed. She is determined to bring emotional truth to whatever role she has been assigned or on which she is working. She also has an all too rare charismatic, luminescent quality that makes her portrayals seem fit and guided from within. So I invite you to experience what Jean Houston calls the genius and magic of Peggy Rubin.
Now, how's that? Jeepers creepers. Goodness gracious. Well, I just sprout wings and fly off. That'll take care of that one. Anyway, it's really lovely to be here and to have all these friends show up and tell these lovely lies. I'm really thrilled, and I want to bring particular greetings, because I was talking to Jean yesterday as I was driving down, and she said, please give my best to all these people. You will love these people. They are so wonderful. They're so alive. They're so charming. They're so grand. So my greetings to you. So she thinks as highly of you as these words would make it seem somebody thinks of me. Thank you. That was convoluted, wasn't it? So, because this is about living your life as a great and sacred play, let's begin by sensing the place, the stage that we're each on right now, if you would. So we want to acknowledge this ground, this place, this university, the reason that you have gathered together in this glorious organization, the reason that you are alive today, And gratitude, one of the lovely things at our table was the sense of gratitude and appreciation for life today. So we just want to be aware that the earth in all her glory is around us, that this is a place for learning at many edges and beauty, and to just be present on that stage. All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Well, my way of saying that line is that all the world's a stage, and all the men and women sacred players. And my work has been, I'll tell you how it started, about bringing us toward an acknowledgement that we are the leading characters in our own life play, and it is a cast of thousands, and it has seen many changes and many places. Can you imagine anybody trying to write your life? Isn't it a wonderful thing? I mean, can you imagine anything more glorious than what you yourself have lived and seen and done in this time, this realm and time? Well, this is how it started. Since so many of you have talked about Jean and she has sent her love to you, and I think we'll be with you next month. Is that right? This happy December 1st. Goodness gracious. This is how this whole work began, which many of you have lived through and through and through and through. By trying to get this book written, since writing is difficult for me, and many of you have sweat through the years with it, so for which I thank you. So when I first went to work with Jean in 1986, I think it was, she was calling from New York, and I was living in Ashland, Oregon, part of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, as Linda said, and I got a phone call from her. She said, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to a conference in the Netherlands on sacred matter. And I've signed you up for a talk on sacred theater. That's very like Jean. She likes to challenge, okay? So I thought about it a while, and that's when I began to think about what it is about the traditional theater that can be elevated or considered in a different way as sacred. How does it make it sacred? Because the theater began as a sacred act, as a way of honoring the gods, of honoring life, of honoring the soul. So I began to think about how the things that make theater into theater can also give us a way to frame our lives. So I prepared, and I want you to know it was a glorious speech. I had the powers laid out, and which I will do the same for you, and I had demonstrations of each of the powers in Shakespeare's words, poetry, all the rest of it. Jean and I did a scene from Twelfth Night together. It was fabulous. At the end of it, this lovely lady from Belgium came up to me and said, I enjoyed your talk very much, but I did not understand a word of it. I think that's back to the drawing board time, So that was 24 years ago, and so we've been trying to work it out since then, exactly what it means. And I've been listening recently to the words of Michael Meade. He's a wonderful mythologist and great storyteller and a very important thinker about the times in which we're living. And one of the things he talks about is that when the middle world, the culture that we live in, begins to have great shaking up difficulties or begins to disintegrate or things begin to fall apart in that realm, the human being needs to do two things. One is to go inward, to find the deepest places of the soul and the strength and the places within ourselves where we are, in fact, reflections of the universe. And to be present to those, to hold to that place within. And the other is to go out to the universe and to connect with the things that are eternal, so that the things that seem so transient and so painful today have some kind of mythological understanding when seen in the light and the mirror of the universe, the cosmos. Is that making sense? So what I'm here to tell you is this little book does both. You get to go in, and it's hard work. Those of you who are working it know it's work. And you also, I hope, in the process of living your life as sacred theater, you get to the place where you acknowledge the eternal qualities of it. I've spent this year studying in the workshops that I've been doing the relationship of the spirit and the soul to one another, and how each is different and how each of them plays with each other, how they become great actors in your life. So the work of sacred theater is to acknowledge yourself as a sacred player in a great, one-time only production. And I want to clarify that when I say you are the star of it, it doesn't mean that you need to be self-centered about it or self-only involved with yourself. It doesn't. It just means that you have a gift to bring and it needs to be portrayed in the world. That's what you've come to do. And so the first, I would, if it's all right with you, like to go through what I think of as the 9 powers. And when we're talking sacrality or sacred, we're talking about power. And these are powers. And you hold each of them inside of you. And when you engage them with what you know and are and observe and care about, you will then have a way of looking at the glory that is your life with gratitude and joy and wild ebullience. I promise. I promise. So the way I approach the book and the way I approach the work itself is to think in terms of our journalism assignment. Remember that? If you're going to write a story, there are things the questions you have to answer, right? And the first one is, who? Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. And the answer, as far as the powers of sacred theater, the answer, of course, is you. And the power that you engage in being yourself is called incarnation. Any great actor walks out on a stage having incarnated, meaning, and I've always loved this, meaning brought it into meat. Okay? Carne is meat. And so the spirit, the power, the soul, the gift you are has come into flesh. And that's a mystery and a miracle beyond our capacity to believe. That one thing. And the work and the joy of life is to fully incarnate and to come in giving the gift that you brought from the other realms. So I'm going to ask you to think for just a moment about what you love doing and what you feel most alive doing. What brings you the greatest sense of aliveness and joy and being in alignment with something greater. What are the things that do that? Because that, I believe, is the gift you have brought to the world. And the way it has come through you, your incarnation, the way you have brought it, is what makes you unique and makes the gift unique. And it's such a miraculous thing to have a gift from the realms beyond all-knowing and to carry it into life and to give it to the world. And generally, this is my belief anyway, that the gifts themselves they come in the form of verbs, active verbs. Thank you for that revelation this morning. Are you willing to say what you told me earlier? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Well, I was gifted with Peggy's book by Penny McManigal, and I started reading it, and I decided I wasn't going to just read it. I was really going to commit to doing the work, and because I knew that's where the value would be. And the first revelation that came was my verb, and my verb is to understand.
So this is a beautiful experience of and demonstration of one of the things to just seek is what, and in the gift, Joy, that you have, you seek understanding, you gain wisdom in order to seek understanding, right? You learn lots of things, have followed many paths, right? And the gift then that is given is the capacity to share understanding. Is that fair to say? Yeah, lovely. Okay, so the gifts fall generally into three different kinds of patterns, if you will, and because this is such an important one, I'm spending time on it, and I particularly love it because I love verbs. But they fall into three different things. One is wisdom, the gaining of wisdom, and I think that's exactly what Joy's talking about. That through her gift of understanding and sharing understanding and desire to understand, she falls into the beautiful yoga, if you will, of understanding, of wisdom. So she stands guided and helped by all the principles of wisdom. There's another one that I think is particularly important, and I think all of us born at this time carry it, and that is we incarnate the power to heal. One of the great lamas of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition talk about if you are incarnated now, the word incarnation carries the need to heal or the desire to heal. So I think most of us are healing something with our lives, right? Some process we've become aware of that means healing. And that is also a great way of service, because the other huge pattern of giving is service. And the third, which is the most delectable for many people, is that of devotion, of love. So I'm going to ask, is there anybody in the room who knows that you're here to serve? You have come to serve. Oh, beautiful. Oh, right, sitting there in this beautiful little group. Okay, thank you. And and do you serve as a healer, or is that just a part of it? So you're doing both, but you've come to serve the world. Well, those of you who said that, if you're willing, come on, this is the theater after all, and would you just stand then? And what I'm going to ask, those of you who've come to serve, if you would find a gesture for you that comes through your flesh and your way of knowing, simply a gesture of giving that gift of healing and service to the world. Look at, see, beautiful, Patty. Yeah, and also through the, oh, lovely. Look at that. Can you ever, yes, thank you, sir. Yeah, lifting it as well as serving. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Janice, nice. Oh, lovely, and it's in motion. Now that's nice. So thank you for demonstrating that. So everybody, oh, nice with the hands. Is there any way to move it so that it becomes an actor's dance, a kind of glorious? Oh, thank you. We're in a room of high people. How lovely. How lovely. Thank you. And thank you for the gift. And each of you brings it so in such a precious and unique way, right? You acknowledge that. It's only yours and the only way you give it. Thank you for that. Okay, now here's anybody else besides Joy who's willing to stand and acknowledge that her or his way is the way of wisdom. The seeking of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Okay, and so it's going to sometimes be the same thing. Right, good, same people. So, Joy, stand again if you will, please. Be proud, be proud. That's the one I join also. So those of us who stand for wisdom, would you let your body form a gesture that yes, okay, beautiful. It does it so swift. You're all really good actors. How nice, how nice. Okay, yeah, the desire for wisdom, and then the giving of wisdom through 1,000 different forms. Penny McManigal, my old and dear and precious friend, is the reason really that I'm allowed to be here. Thank you, and Paul and Lenore and the glorious Lisa. Anyway, thank you, Penny. But she gives through art, through the creation of art. Others of you give that wisdom through teaching, through, speaking. Yes, I got that, and very nicely too, and meditating. Yes. Yeah, so it's about, and writing. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, lovely. Yes, you bet. So thank you. Thanks those of you who hold for wisdom. All right, now we get to the juicy one. How many of you were born knowing that your great pattern for life is that of loving, of devotion, of simply being a presence that is love in the world. Yes. Well, no, that's a really good and important question. No, for most of the people that I know of who are the lovers, they may have been born lovers, but it took some doing to get there, to understand it. They were born they brought that gift. But very often, and this is the curious thing about this great stage that is the earth, that the giving of your gift sometimes requires that you have exactly the opposite experience for a very long time, until it burns its way into awareness and you become love. And sometimes the people with the hardest lives are the ones who have come bringing love. So with those of you who know yourself to be lovers, and that may be everybody in the room, would you be willing to stand and make a gesture of how it is to be a lover? To be devoted to the goodness, to be devoted to joy, to be devoted to life, to the universe. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Gorgeous. Yeah. And I'm just going to ask everybody to honor that in themselves in this moment. All of us who are here for many different purposes, carrying absolutely unique gifts, to just honor the life you have been born to live in this delicate and tender and fragile time. And as sacred players, if you can, dedicate your whole self to that principle, to that piece of beauty. Once again, it's a thing that happens moment by moment, but to remember moment by moment that you carry something of such delicate and glorious significance, and that only you can give it through this flesh and blood. So, thank you very much. So that's the answer to the question, who? Me. You. And the second question, the great question, is what? Thank you very much. And what in the sacred theater understanding and in the way of being a sacred player, what you are here to do is to enact a story. And the great joy is to figure out what the story is. All right, what am I here to enact? Which one of these wild and painful and poignant and glorious stories that the world has as famous plot lines, for example, am I here to enact? And how do I do it? And do I do it kicking and screaming, or do I do it with verve and joy, or how do I do it? So that the how comes a little later. But for the story, and this is the one thing that I've learned, actually been working on since the book was published, is that there are a certain number of plot lines, and many of us get caught in those plot lines. We have a fatal flaw. We're caught in a triangle. We're caught in a this, or we're caught in a spider web, or we're caught in something, we get caught in the plots, and we think those are our lives. And the thing that I now believe is that what we need to do when we're caught in a story is to go back to the creation stories, all of them, from around the world, and start creating in our way. There's the great story of the weaver. There's the story of the dancer who created it all through dance. There's the great Judeo-Christian one and Islamic of the word. But first there had to be an idea, so it's a thought, and then the word, and the breathing. There's a whole beautiful thing of Yahweh breathing on Elohim, breathing on the waters. And so there's just that, and making sounds. Those of you who are given to singing, if you're caught in the middle of a really wretched story, start your way of creating, of singing. And I want to let you know of one of my favorites of recent times, and that it's a Gnostic Egyptian, who knows. And I looked it up. I knew it was there, but I couldn't find it, and finally found it about 3 months ago. But it's about the great creator who created through laughter. And she, he, they, it, all of them together, and they issued forth 7 laughs. Okay? And don't you think that's a good thing? So let's try. And it was through laughter that they created light and water and all the things that are outside and all the things that are inside. And the most important of their creations was the one that happens the seventh laugh. And that's the creation of the soul. The soul of the world, the soul of human beings, the soul of animal and plant and life, the soul that is in all glorious things. And that's what was created through this being who laughed. So when the story you're enacting gets tight, just remember the Creator who created through laughter. And let's just, have you seen that, speaking of YouTube, have you seen that glorious thing, the guy gets on the train and starts laughing? Have you watched that? And everybody on the train is, first they think, what's this cool guy doing? He's creating a new world. Because pretty soon everybody is just uproariously laughing. Okay, so let's try it. Just remember something funny, or something wonderful that your child did, or something glorious that you did, or some elegantly, alarmingly funny joke. Okay, got it? Let's go. And remember, you're good. No wonder Jean loves you so much. Just remember that we have precedent. That's a creative act. And so when all else fails, laughter, the creation through laughter, will help a lot. So we've got who, what, when is the next way, the one I answer next. So, and that, of course, is when. You got it. And the lovely thing about being aware of the power and engaging the power of now. And the thing that I want to touch you with this morning is the fact that in this present moment, so let's just hold in this moment, everything that you have ever known, ever participated in, ever lived through is present in this moment. And you can, through the power of your imagination and your desire, you can bring the richness and sweetness of the past and the present and just cast them as a trajectory into the future. So some quality that is present in your life now, how do you want it to be continuous? And knowing that it'll be different, but it'll be this, and it will also be there. So it's the belief that within this precious moment, we have coded everything that is the past, and we are coding everything that is the future. And it is a wonderful thing to just stand in that vastness of time that is this moment, and allowing this moment to bloom, so that you embrace the past and hold the future with elan and courage. Okay? The next one is who, what, when, where. All right. And this one is the one I like. I'm just going to ask you to do one little piece about that, because the request is for you to use your imagination and to build yourself in your energy field, your own sacred stage, so that no matter where you are, if you suddenly remember that I have standing in my energy field with me a pear tree from my childhood that is simultaneously blooming with blossoms and giving pears and turning russet brown and bare in the winter. It's all those 4 things. But that pear tree standing right here behind me. Can you see it? Yeah. So if the idea is simply to take some signature piece of the landscape, so Jane spoke so beautifully of how important the natural world is to your happiness and your sustenance of yourself. So if you take some wonderful tree that opens itself into the realms beyond and is a kind of eternal tree of life, and you simply place it in your energy field when you're going through a hard time, or even just when you get up in the morning, that there's something about that protection and that presence. So the idea is to build a sense in your energy field, and you can change it all the time, but there's something wonderful about knowing around you is a stage that you designed, a setting that's perfect for you. The right colors, the right everything is there. And you're at home and strong. And that's a holy thing. And also to just acknowledge day after day after day that this earth we stand on is itself the sacred stage that we are so fortunate to have a chance to live on and to get on our knees for. Every blade of grass. And we can do that every moment. Okay. So that's the holy stage. Then we have 3 beautiful things that explain how we work our way as sacred players. The most important one is the gift, or no, they're all equally important. But one is the gift of expression. And I'm just going to ask you, if you will, to let your throat warm up a little bit. One way to do that is to rub your hands together and then just warm your throat. Let your hands actually warm your throat, and let's hum for just a moment. Because we want expression. Yes, beautiful. Expression requires activation of the throat if we're going to express through words. Okay? And many of us do. That is somehow what we're doing. So warming up the throat with the sound. And then, if you will, letting the sound inform the heart so that it feels like you're humming through the heart. And then filling what's in your heart, filling your face and your whole body with what's in your heart. And then just turning to people and giving it. So you let the eyes fill with the love that's in your heart, or the awareness that's in your heart, or the sound that's in your heart. And just send it around the room. Send it around the room. And that's expression of what you are in this moment. Of what you know yourself to be as a sacred player on this sacred stage that is the earth. And expression requires your heart, your throat, your whole body, your whole face. So that's how you play yourself as a sacred actor in the world, is to, through your face, through your body, through your throat, and through your heart. All that totally engaged. And there are 3 actually in this, and I do want to get to the third one. The second, how we play a sacred play, is called the power of the point of view. So you want to be aware of what your point of view is, how you see the world, right? And how you were trained to see the world. And just to notice that how you were trained to see the world may not be the way you see it today. Anybody had any changes in their lifetime? That's what engaging this power does. You notice that somebody's asking you to shift. Okay, so it's about your soul's desire to change, or to look differently, or to look at something in a fresh way. But a really good actor knows who she is and what she's doing or what he's doing, and does it. And then sometimes somebody will come up against you and say, no, that's not the way it is. And then you begin the play again. So then okay, you come to a resolution, or you come to a war, or, whatever happens. But it is a shift, a change. The third one, and I do want to spend just a moment on this one, is my favorite also. Everybody get your dukes up, if you will, please. This is the power of conflict. Yes. And most of us avoid it at all costs, right? How many people are conflict avoidant, I believe is the way the word goes? Yes. Well, the truth about it is, there can be no play without it. Think how dull your life would be as a play if there was nothing in it but everybody agreed with you, and you agreed with everybody, and everything was just peaceful and dull, right? Our job is to entertain the gods, as one of my teachers is fond of saying. And believe me, the gods are so thrilled when you enter into conflict, in engaging the power of conflict. This is not about violence, because when we start getting violent, that means we have not engaged the power. And the power, there's stages to it, so you write this part down. This is big. Okay. Acknowledge that it's happened. And when conflict rises, you want to acknowledge that something sacred is happening. You are standing on the holiest. You're standing in the holy of holies of your soul, because your soul is saying something needs to grow. Or in Michael Meade's terms, something needs to be initiated. Some part of you, something needs to shift. And there's several things that you can do that are really important. And one is to take a moment to acknowledge that any big conflict requires a sacrifice. And you want to list what you're losing or what you might lose. And it might be your good opinion of yourself. Or your thought that you're really a peaceful person. Something is gonna need to give, because your soul is asking you to embrace the one who is in conflict with you, or your ideas that are in conflict. That part of yourself, because the greatest conflict is the ones internal, that are internal. And the soul is asking you to embrace that part that you would like to pretend does not exist, or shift away, or do damage to. So it's about being able to embrace. But when conflict rises, allow the power of conflict to greet you, and say, something wants to grow, and it's a part of my soul. And what may need to grow is your capacity to stand firm, no matter what. Maybe your capacity to create, no matter what. Something is growing. So love the power of conflict. It's a good one. All right, so we have the reason why we do all these, because that's the how. The three hows are expression, point of view, and conflict. That's the way the story moves, okay? But the final two are the reasons that we do it. And one is the audience, the sacred audience. No play exists without a sacred audience, or without an audience indeed. And so you want to be aware that your role in life is sometimes to simply be an audience to someone else's play. And to do it with honor, not play the role of the critic. That's really tiresome. And it wears you out and it wears your friends out. But to be a member of the audience, honoring what's happening. And the big reason that we do it, the big reason is to celebrate life. That's what the theater is for. That's what your lives, I believe, as a sacred player are about, is to celebrate life. Again, back to that famous phrase, no matter what. Celebrate life. And I have had such joy looking at the science of how life is created, and the molecules. And it's many thousands of things happen. But one beautiful thing is that the atoms just careen along together until they bump into somebody. So, and then they form a bond. So it's about making bonds. Just notice how many bonds, they may be tenuous, they may not be, and how many you've renewed this morning. But just making bonds, okay? Making bonds. Just notice what you've done. You've made a few bonds this morning. Yeah? Through eyes, through talk, through everything else. Okay. Now, then when we all leave and go our different ways, those bonds are breaking. They're not broken forever with the psychological level, but at the physical level, you're going off somewhere else. That's a part of life, and you want to honor that. And generally, when bonds break at the molecular level, energy is released. So you've each, because I listened to Linda say those impossible things about me, There was, even when we leave, energy will be released, because there was something sweet that she did with such a generosity to me for me this morning. So there's, that kind of, and when you go out of here, I hope you go out and say, something new has happened here, or something different, or whatever. So the breaking of bonds is an important thing to acknowledge. And and the energy that is released, and also that there's very often an enzyme that's working to catalyze it all. So that's the basic level of life, and we want to pay attention to how that works. But the most important thing is to celebrate who you are, how you live, why you live, what you're doing, and all the rest of it. I have 2 glorious poems that I want to close with on this piece of celebration. And one is by the Nobel Prize winner, Derek Walcott, and it is called Love After Love. The time will come. The time, I feel like David White. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror. And each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life. That's nice. And yeah, that's a good one. Thanks, it is beautiful. And this is the primary thing of celebration. The school prayer by Diana. In the name of the daybreak, and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon, and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace. In the name of the sun and its mirrors, and the day that embraces it, and the cloud veils drawn over it, and the uttermost night, and the male and the female, and the plants bursting with seed, and the crowning seasons of the firefly and the apple, I will honor all life wherever and in whatever form it may dwell, on earth my home, and in the mansions of the stars. So that's what Sacred Theater is about, honoring all life on